Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be diving deep into the core of Buddhist teachings.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at Thich Nhat Hanh's The Heart of the Buddhist Teaching.
It's really amazing, actually, when you think about it. We've got Buddhist concepts, stories, ancient texts.
And Thich Nhat Hanh just brings all of that to life and makes it so relevant,
It really does.
for our lives today. Yeah. He really emphasizes that this isn't just some philosophy. It's, something you can actually do. You can practice it.
Totally, yeah. And he really dives right in, doesn't he? He goes straight into suffering,
Mhm.
which, let's face it, we all experience it. But there's this quote that really stood out to me. He says, "Because there is suffering in your heart, it is possible for you to enter my heart."
Wow.
And then he compares suffering to like a holy truth.
Yeah.
It's intense.
That's a powerful statement. But it's so important to understand what he really means by that. It's not about like glorifying suffering or anything, but it's about recognizing that it's universal. Like even the Buddha, who, reached enlightenment, still experienced suffering. It's more about how we actually relate to it.
Yeah.
That makes all
Yeah.
the difference. So instead of just pushing it away
Right.
or pretending it's not there,
Right. Yeah.
Thich Nhat Hanh, he encourages us to embrace it.
Really.
Yeah, to really look at it.
Wow.
That's actually where we can find the path to real peace.
He tells this story. It's a really powerful story about this couple, this young couple, and they're lost in the desert.
Okay.
And they're faced with this horrific choice, really,
Oh,
to consume, to eat their child's flesh just to survive.
wow.
It's extreme, but it really got me thinking,
Right.
about how
And that's the point, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to make you think we may not be in such like a dramatic situation,
Mm.
but how often are we consuming our suffering in a way?
Oh, interesting.
Like we're replaying painful memories.
Right, yeah.
We're feeding our anxieties, getting caught up in what we could have done differently. And that leads us to, like a really important part of Buddhist teaching, which is the Four Noble Truths.
The Four Noble Truths. Have you heard of these?
I have, but I have to admit, they always seem kind of abstract to me.
I totally get that. But what I love is how Thich Nhat Hanh, he presents them not as like rules or,
Right.
doctrines, but as practices.
Yeah.
Something you can really embody.
Okay.
So the first noble truth, it's simply recognizing that suffering exists.
Okay, so we acknowledge it.
We acknowledge it, we all experience it, and that's part of, being human.
Okay.
The second noble truth is about understanding why.
Okay, so like exploring the reasons behind it.
Exactly. And he talks about like the nutrients of suffering, which I love.
Nutrients of suffering, okay.
Like what we feed our suffering,
Right.
what we give energy to. He compares it to like what we choose to watch on TV or, what books we pick up. Like if we're constantly like, bombarding ourselves with news and information that's fueling anger or anxiety,
Yeah,
that becomes our primary diet.
like junk food for the mind.
Exactly. It's such a powerful analogy, right?
Yeah, and it makes it so clear. So once we actually see what's feeding our suffering, the third noble truth, points us towards ending that suffering, like actually finding true happiness.
So there is a way out.
He says happiness is possible. We can actually find it by stopping feeding those harmful things, those nutrients.
It's like finally putting down this heavy weight you've been carrying around. He tells this great story. This farmer loses everything, like his cows, his crops, everything's gone. And the Buddha says to his monks, "You are the happiest people on earth because you have no cows or sesame plants to lose."
Wow.
It's, it makes you realize that sometimes our attachments, the things we hold on to so tightly.
They're actually the things that are holding us back
Exactly.
from finding true happiness.
And that leads us to the fourth noble truth, which is the path, the way to actually end suffering. And that's the Eightfold Path, right?
The Eightfold Path. Yep.
Which is not about like this far off goal.
No.
It's about how we're living our lives, like every single day.
It's a practice, not a destination. And Thich Nhat Hanh really emphasizes how everything is connected, especially when it comes to this path.
Yeah, he especially talks about right view, right thinking, and right action.
Right.
And how they all kind of work together.
They influence each other, yeah.
And I love how he describes right view, not just about like intellectually understanding something.
Right. It's not just about reading a book, right?
Exactly. It's like he compares it to trying to describe the taste of an orange.
To someone who's never tasted an orange.
Exactly. Like, how do you even put that into words?
You can't. You have to experience it.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
have to experience it.
And He uses this great story, this anecdote, to really illustrate this point. This reporter asks him, if he was from North or South Vietnam during the war, and his response is just brilliant.
What did he say?
He said, "I am from the center."
Wow.
Like he was encouraging the reporter to step outside of these categories.
Right, those boxes, the labels.
To really look at this situation with fresh eyes.
Yeah. So how do we actually cultivate this right view in our own lives? What does that actually look like?
Well, you can think of it as setting the foundation right
Okay.
for living with less suffering, more peace. And Thich Nhat Hanh ties this directly to understanding the Four Noble Truths.
Okay.
And really believing in that possibility of transformation, that change is possible.
I love that we don't have to be defined by our past or our suffering. We can actually change.
Exactly. And that's where right thinking comes in.
Okay, so tell me about right thinking.
So as our understanding shifts, as we cultivate this right view, our thoughts naturally start to change too. Yeah. We start thinking thoughts that are rooted in compassion and awareness. We develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
It's amazing how these things all build on each other,
Exactly. We're all connected.
Right thinking leads to right action, right?
Exactly. So from right view, our thoughts shift, and then those thoughts lead to positive action.
Okay, so what does right action look like day to day?
Think of it as aligning your actions with those values we were just talking about. Minimizing harm, and acting in ways that actually promote well-being, not just for ourselves, but for everyone.
It sounds like it's not just about these grand gestures, right?
Not at all. Thich Nhat Hanh actually connects right action with something called the 5 mindfulness trainings. He places a special emphasis on reverence for life,
Okay.
mindful consumption, and then also responsibility in our sexual behavior.
So he's talking about these very practical, everyday things.
Exactly. It's about bringing that mindful awareness to even the smallest choices that we make. What we choose to eat, what we buy, even just how we interact with someone at the grocery store.
It's about realizing that all those little choices, they actually matter. They have an impact.
Every single one.
Wow. It sounds like it all comes back to mindfulness.
It does. It's really the foundation. It might seem so simple, but it's incredibly powerful.
It is. And Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us that it's a skill, something we can actually get better at,
Exactly. It's like a muscle you can develop.
Yeah.
And it takes practice, It's not always easy.
And he even talks about the 4 miracles of mindfulness, right?
Yes.
Preventing harmful actions.
Right.
Inspiring good deeds.
Inspiring good deeds, yes.
Cultivating happiness.
We can help alleviate suffering.
It's like really waking up to this present moment and choosing how we want to show up in the world.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
It really is about making conscious choices.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually provides these specific techniques to help us cultivate mindfulness in our everyday lives.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that. How do we actually do it?
He breaks it down into these different types of mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
There's mindfulness of the body, there's mindfulness of feelings, there's mindfulness of the mind.
Okay.
And then there's mindfulness of dharmas.
Mindfulness of dharmas. Okay. Let's break those down, because I think people are going to want to really understand what that looks like practically.
Absolutely, yeah.
One of the things I really appreciate about Thich Nhat Hanh is how he presents the Buddha. It's not this distant, godlike figure.
Right.
It's a real person.
Yeah.
Who struggle, we struggle.
Totally. He makes him very relatable.
Yeah.
Someone we can connect with.
And he makes it clear that even the Buddha, he wasn't born enlightened,
He had his own journey.
He had his own path. Yeah.
His own searching.
His own questioning, this deep inner work.
Absolutely.
Thich Nhat Hanh, he even talks about how the Buddha went through this period of extreme asceticism.
Oh, wow.
Denying himself food, sleep.
Really intense practices.
Yeah. It makes you think, what was he searching for? You know? What was he hoping to find through that kind of, deprivation?
I mean, it's easy to imagine someone in that kind of state.
Right.
Really seeking answers.
Yeah.
Searching for an end to suffering.
Right, trying to escape it.
But, as this Nhat Hanh points out, the Buddha, he eventually realized that this extreme denial, it wasn't the path to liberation either.
Right.
It's about finding that middle way.
The middle path, yeah.
A balance.
Right.
Mindfulness, understanding.
It's like he was saying, hey, look, I tried the extremes.
Yeah, I've been there.
It's not it.
It's not the answer.
Yeah.
And
instead of those extremes, he focused on these practices, that are accessible to everyone.
Right. Practices we can actually do.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
In our daily lives.
It wasn't about, like, escaping from the world,
Right.
but learning to, like, be in it differently.
To live differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to change our relationship with the
But
world.
that's what's so powerful about his teachings, right?
Exactly.
It's not just a set of beliefs.
Yeah.
It's like these practical tools,
Tools for living.
practices
Yeah.
for navigating being human,
The ups and downs.
all of it, the messiness of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it makes it so relevant, right? Even thousands of years later.
Absolutely. It's timeless wisdom.
You know, one of the things that we keep coming back to, and it feels like it's like at the heart of what Thich Nhat Hanh is talking about, is this practice of mindfulness.
Yes.
We touched on it a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
but it feels central to, like, his message.
He describes it as the heart of Buddhist practice.
Yeah.
And I think that's really accurate.
Okay.
It's not about, emptying your mind
Right.
or like disappearing into some blissful state.
Right. Right.
It's about being present
Right here, right now.
with whatever's happening, your
Yeah.
thoughts, your feelings, your sensations, just like being with it all.
I've tried meditation before, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
My mind, it's a busy place.
It's like a monkey swinging from vine to vine.
Exactly. So how do you even begin, Like, when you've got a million thoughts a minute?
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
This Nat Hanh gives us very specific techniques
Okay.
that we can all use.
Okay.
Simple things,
Wow.
really like mindful breathing,
Yeah.
just taking a few moments
Yeah.
to bring your attention to your breath.
Yeah.
Noticing the feeling of each inhale
Hmm.
and exhale
Right.
can be so grounding.
Okay, so instead of trying to, like, shut off the thoughts, it's
Yeah.
more about using the breath as this, like, anchor.
Exactly, an anchor to the present moment
Yeah.
to bring you back
Back to the now.
to the
Right?
here and now.
Yeah.
And it's not just about sitting still either.
Right.
He talks about mindful walking,
Okay.
bringing that same quality of awareness
Okay.
to each step,
Okay.
or mindful eating,
Yeah.
really savoring each bite.
Interesting. Yeah.
So it's about weaving mindfulness
Yeah.
into everything we do.
Our daily activities.
Yeah.
He also talks about these 4 establishments of mindfulness.
Yes, the 4 establishments of mindfulness.
Yeah. Can you say a little bit more about those?
Absolutely. He breaks it down really beautifully.
Yeah.
The first one, like we just talked about, is mindfulness of the body.
Right. Okay.
Then there's mindfulness of feelings,
Okay.
paying attention to our emotions.
Okay, but not judging them.
Exactly, without judgment.
Just observe.
Observing with curiosity.
So, like, if I'm feeling stressed or, anxious, it's
Yeah.
not about pushing those feelings away.
No, not at all.
It's about saying, like, oh, okay, this is here.
This is what I'm experiencing right now.
I'm feeling this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he uses this great analogy, comparing it to a farmer sorting seeds.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Each sensation, each emotion is acknowledged.
Okay.
It's recognized for what it is
Yeah.
without getting swept away by it.
Without getting attached.
Exactly. Just noticing.
Okay.
So we have mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings.
What about the other 2?
Right. We also have mindfulness of the mind,
Okay.
which is about noticing those constant streams of thoughts.
Yeah, the thoughts that just don't stop.
Right, without getting carried away by
Without
them.
getting lost in them, yeah.
And then the fourth one is mindfulness of dharmas.
Mindfulness of dharmas, I have to say, that one's still a little...
It's a little more abstract.
Yeah, a little mysterious.
Right.
What does it mean to be mindful of dharmas?
So dharmas, in this context,
Yeah.
refer to the fundamental elements of reality,
Okay.
the very building blocks of existence.
Wow. Okay.
So mindfulness of dharmas is about observing these elements,
Okay.
noticing the impermanent, interconnected nature of all things. It's a
Right.
bit more conceptual,
Right. Right.
but it leads to a deeper understanding
Okay.
of ourselves and the world
Okay.
and how it all works.
So it's like we're training ourselves to see beyond our normal limited view,
Yes, exactly.
and like experience reality on this whole other level.
Exactly, to see things as they really are.
Yeah.
And all of these practices,
Yeah.
they work together.
They support each other.
They support each other.
Yeah.
They deepen our understanding.
And they create this more stable
Grounded way of being.
a foundation.
Yes, exactly.
It's amazing how Thich Nhat Hanh, he weaves all these concepts together.
He's a master at that.
And he also talks about, like, the importance of mindful speech.
Right, right. Speech.
He says, right speech is the speech of love.
I love that quote.
It's beautiful, right?
It's so simple, but so profound.
It's about speaking in ways that are truthful
Kind of.
helpful.
Yes.
Recognizing the power of our words and using them to like build connection rather than division.
To create harmony
Yeah,
rather than conflict.
exactly. And it's not just what we say,
Right.
but how we listen.
That's huge.
I struggle with that, I'll admit.
It's something we all struggle with.
It's so easy to just like jump in
Yeah, we want to get our point across.
with my own thoughts and opinions.
But Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us
yeah.
that deep listening,
Mm-hmm.
really paying attention to what the other person is saying,
Yeah.
without interrupting,
Mm-hmm.
without imposing our own ideas,
Right.
that is a practice in itself.
And it's a practice, yeah.
It takes effort.
It makes you realize how often we miss those opportunities
Absolutely.
for like deeper connection
Yeah.
because we're so busy like thinking about our response.
We're already formulating our next sentence
Exactly.
before they've even finished theirs.
And he says, deep listening is at the foundation of right speech.
Mm-hmm.
If we cannot listen mindfully, we cannot practice right speech.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It all starts with listening.
I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
This concept of non-self.
Yeah.
It's one of those Buddhist teachings that I find like so intriguing,
Mhm.
but also a little mind-boggling.
It's a big one.
What does Thich Nhat Hanh have to say about it?
It's central to Buddhist thought,
Okay.
and he explains it beautifully.
Okay.
He says, the second Dharma seal is non-self. Nothing has a separate existence or a separate self. Everything has to interbe with everything else.
So it's not just that. Like, we don't exist as these, like, isolated individuals.
Right.
It's that everything is, like, interconnected, interdependent.
Everything is connected.
Our actions, our thoughts, like, everything we
Our
do.
very being
Yeah.
is woven into the fabric of everything else.
It's a beautiful way to think about it.
It is, and he uses this amazing analogy,
Okay.
Indra's net.
Indra's net. Okay.
So imagine this vast net with a jewel at every intersection,
Okay.
and each jewel reflects all the other jewels
Wow.
in the net. It's this powerful image of interconnectedness.
Yeah, like we're all reflecting each other.
Our happiness, our suffering, our actions, it all has an impact
On each other.
on the world around us.
And the world impacts us.
Exactly, we're not separate.
It's kind of a humbling thought, isn't it?
It is.
It makes you think about the consequences
of everything we do,
of our actions. Yeah.
big and small.
And he doesn't shy away from, like, the challenging parts of these teachings either.
No, you don't.
Like the concept of impermanence.
Right.
Something we all kind of grapple with
Yeah, it's a tough one.
on some level, yeah.
He states it very simply.
Okay.
Everything has to interbe with everything else.
Mhm.
Our eyes would not be possible without non-eye elements. Nothing exists in isolation.
It's easy to resist that idea, though, you know?
It is.
Especially when we're experiencing loss
Yeah.
or when we want things to just stay the same.
We cling to what's familiar,
We cling to permanence.
to what we know.
Yeah, exactly.
But Thich Nhat Hanh suggests that it's actually embracing impermanence,
Well,
that we can find true freedom.
okay.
Because if everything is always changing,
Yeah.
then nothing is fixed.
Okay.
And there's always the possibility for growth,
Okay.
for transformation, for
Yeah.
new beginning.
New possibilities.
Exactly.
He uses that metaphor of a wave, you know?
Oh, yeah. Beautiful metaphor.
It rises, it falls, but it's always water.
Always water.
And we're like, those waves, right? We're constantly changing.
Ebbing and flowing.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
we're always a part of something bigger.
Part of something larger than ourselves.
Yeah.
And that brings us to this concept of nirvana.
Nirvana.
It's often misunderstood as
dear.
this kind of like blissful state
Right.
that we achieve after death.
Right. Like a heaven.
But Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us that nirvana is available
Okay.
in every moment.
Oh, wow. So we don't have to wait
We don't have to wait.
to experience.
He says, nirvana, the third Dharma seal, is the ground of being, the substance of all that is.
Wow.
It's about realizing our true nature,
Okay.
our interconnectedness with all things,
Okay.
which is already whole
Okay.
and complete.
So it's about accessing like a different way of seeing, you know.
A different way of being
Yeah.
right here, right now.
Not escaping.
No.
Whoa. Waking up.
Waking up to the true nature of reality.
Yeah.
And he ties this back to the idea of the Buddha's teachings being like a raft
Okay. The raft. Yeah.
that helps us cross over to the other shore.
Okay.
But once we've reached the other shore,
Yeah.
we don't need to carry the raft anymore.
Right.
We can put it down.
It's such a powerful image.
It is.
It's like he's saying, you know, use these teachings,
Yeah.
these practices
As tools to realize your true nature.
To your true self.
And once you've awakened, you can let go
yeah.
and simply be.
Simply be, yeah.
Beautiful.
There's so much here. It feels like every concept we're, like, unpacking.
I know, it's amazing.
It opens up these, like, whole new worlds.
It's a true deep dive.
Of understanding.
And we're not even done yet.
We've got more to uncover. We've been talking about impermanence and non-self.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, like, what does that mean for happiness?
Right.
Is it even possible
Yeah.
to find, like, real lasting happiness
Mm-hmm.
in a world where everything's always changing?
That is the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really at the core of all of this.
Yeah.
And Thich Nhat Hanh, he doesn't pretend that suffering doesn't exist.
Right.
He's very honest about that.
Yeah.
But he also
Yeah.
offers this really profound message of hope.
Okay.
He talks about transforming suffering
Okay.
rather than trying to escape from it.
So it's not about pretending everything's perfect
No, not
or ignoring the hard stuff?
It's about facing it,
Okay.
but facing it with like openness and courage.
Okay, so how do we do that?
He uses this really beautiful image
Okay.
of a mother holding her crying child.
Okay.
She doesn't tell the child to stop crying.
Right.
She doesn't deny the child's pain.
Right.
She just holds them
Yeah.
with love
Yeah.
and understanding.
That's so powerful.
And so, in the same way,
Yeah.
we can learn to approach our own pain,
Yeah.
our difficult emotions,
Mm-hmm.
with that same kind of tenderness.
It's like we're holding space for ourselves.
Exactly. With compassion. It's about acknowledging what's there,
Yeah.
understanding where it's coming from,
Yeah.
and then finding ways to transform it.
Okay, so how do we actually transform it?
That's where mindfulness comes in.
Okay.
Because when we're more present,
Yeah.
more aware,
Mm-hmm.
we can start to see our own patterns more clearly.
Things we're holding on to.
Exactly.
Maybe the thoughts, the beliefs that
Yeah.
are causing us suffering.
Yeah, the stories we tell ourselves
Yeah.
that keep us stuck.
And mindfulness helps us see that.
It helps us see it without judgment,
Okay.
which then allows us to make different choices.
So it's not about, like, becoming emotionless.
No, not at all.
It's about learning to, like,
Yeah,
work with our emotions.
exactly.
In a new way.
It's about changing our relationship with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
And part of that is cultivating these really wholesome qualities in ourselves.
Like what? What kind of qualities?
Qualities like loving kindness,
Okay.
compassion,
Yeah.
joy,
Okay.
and equanimity.
Okay. Those sound great.
Yeah, who wouldn't want more of those?
But how do we actually, like, cultivate them?
Right. Especially in the world we live in today,
Yeah.
which can feel so divided.
It feels pretty chaotic out there.
It does. And Thich Nhat Hanh, he's very clear about this. He says, we need to cultivate these qualities,
Yeah.
not just towards those we love,
Okay.
but towards all beings,
Wow. All beings.
even those we consider our enemies.
Even our enemies. That's a tough one.
It is tough,
Yeah.
but it's about recognizing that everyone is suffering.
On some level.
On some level,
Yeah.
everyone wants to be happy.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be free from suffering.
It's that shared humanity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when we can connect with that,
Yeah.
our capacity for compassion just naturally expands,
So it's about, like, shifting our perspective, moving beyond, like, us and them.
breaking down those barriers.
Yeah, and seeing our interconnectedness.
Exactly.
And that's what allows for more compassion.
It's a game changer.
It is. And, it makes me think about our work in the world.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day
Grind.
and lose sight of, like, our values.
Absolutely.
What does Thich Nhat Hanh say about, like, finding work that's aligned with, like, our deepest selves?
He talks about right livelihood.
Right, livelihood, okay.
It's about finding a way to earn a living
Yeah.
that doesn't go against our values.
Of compassion, of love.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about finding work that feels meaningful, that contributes to the well-being of ourselves and others.
That's a big one.
It is, and he acknowledges that it's not always easy.
Right, especially in today's world.
But he encourages us to look for those opportunities,
Yeah.
to find work that benefits both ourselves and the world around us.
Okay, so it's like finding that balance, right?
Finding that balance.
Between, like, making a living,
Mm-hmm.
but also, like, doing something that feels good for our soul.
And for the planet.
Yeah, that doesn't cause harm.
It's about aligning our actions with our values.
So it's like those little choices we make every day.
Exactly.
Like, who are we supporting with our money?
Right. Who are we giving our energy to?
And even if it's not our, like, dream job,
Yeah,
there are still ways to bring mindfulness to our work.
absolutely. We can bring awareness to those everyday tasks.
One thing that's really resonating with me about all of this is, like, Thich Nhat Hanh's emphasis on community.
Yes, the Sangha.
He talks a lot about that, the importance of Sangha.
Yeah, it's essential.
What does he mean by that?
So Sangha, it just means community
Okay.
in Pali, the language of early Buddhist texts.
Okay.
But for Thich Nhat Hanh, it's more than just a group of people.
Okay.
He says, Sangha is the fourfold community of monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen, as well as the other elements that support our practice, our cushion, our walking meditation path, the trees, the sky, and the flowers.
Wow. It's like, it's everything, right?
It's everything.
The people, the environment,
All of
the
it.
things that support our practice.
It's all interconnected.
It really is, yeah. And he says that, practicing with a Sangha,
Yeah.
it's essential.
It makes a huge difference.
Like, even if we love these teachings,
Yeah.
it can be hard to, like, stay committed.
To stay on the path.
Yeah, without that support.
We need each other.
It's like knowing we're not alone in this.
Exactly. We're all in this together,
Having people who get it.
who understand the challenges
Yeah.
and the joys.
And he also talks about, like, the importance of finding a teacher.
A mentor.
Yeah.
Someone to guide us.
Like a trusted friend,
Someone who can offer a different perspective.
Yeah, challenge us to grow.
To see things in a new way.
This has been amazing, really.
It has.
Like Thich Nhat Hanh's
They're
teachings.
so powerful.
They're so, like, applicable to our lives.
Timeless wisdom.
Yeah, and it's inspiring to think that we all have this capacity,
We all have that potential.
for awakening, for peace, for compassion.
It's within us.
It's not, like, this far-off thing.
It's here and now.
Yeah, it's something we can cultivate
Moment by moment.
through our choices, our actions.
Our way of being.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the heart of the Buddhist teaching. We hope you found it enriching and inspiring.